Africa is not a land of beggars. We are a land of strength, wisdom, and unshakable pride. For too long, we've been spoken to with condescension, offered loans with chains, and treated as subjects of charity. That era is over. We are not asking the West for validation. We are demanding respect. We will build, lead, and define our destiny with our own hands. In Burkina Faso, that future has already begun.
Good evening, viewers across Africa and beyond. Tonight we bring you a seismic shift in global political tone, a message not whispered behind closed doors, but declared boldly and without apology. From the heart of West Africa, a leader has stood tall and spoken not only for his people but for a continent. Captain Ibrahim, President of Burkina Faso, has sent a resounding message to the Western powers. Africans are not beggars. We are dignified, we are resourceful, and we deserve respect. In a world where diplomacy often dances around the truth, Captain has refused to be silenced. His speech was not just another political address, it was a declaration of independence, of sovereignty, and above all, of African dignity. With a commanding presence and eyes full of conviction, he took to the podium and shattered decades of narratives that have painted Africa as a continent dependent on aid, incapable of progress, without foreign supervision. He challenged those narratives directly. We are tired of being treated as charity cases, he said. We are not empty hands waiting to be filled. We are capable hands, full of skill, full of strength, and full of pride. This wasn't rhetoric, it was a reality check for those in the West who still believe Africa can be manipulated, divided, or pacified by handouts dressed as help. Captain reminded the world that Africa is rich not just in minerals or land but in spirit, culture, and intelligence, and he made it clear that Africa no longer wishes to sit at a table where it is not treated as an equal. What we witnessed was more than a speech, it was a rebirth of the African voice on the global stage. A voice no longer diluted by colonial guilt or donor diplomacy. A voice unafraid to tell uncomfortable truths. And that truth is this: the era of bowing heads and borrowed policies is over. Africa is rising on its own terms. As president addressed his nation and the world, he didn't ask for sympathy, he didn't ask for validation, he demanded justice, he demanded equality. And he demanded that Africa be seen not as a continent of crises, but as a cradle of solutions. He challenged fellow African leaders to urging them to look inward, to believe in their people, to stop exporting raw materials and importing poverty. The answers to Africa's challenges, he said, will never come from Paris or Washington. They are in our soil, in our youth, and in our courage. For many watching, this was the voice they've been waiting to hear for generations. A voice that doesn't flinch under pressure. A leader who refuses to trade integrity for approval. Across the continent, the response has been electric. From Dakar to Dar es Salaam, from Lagos to Lusaka, social media erupted in support, with millions echoing his words, "We are not beggars, we are Africa." As the West recalibrates its relationship with Africa, it must now reckon with leaders like Captain Ibrahim, who do not beg, who do not bow, and who will not be bought. This is the Africa of today, awake, aware, and ready to reclaim its future. Stay with us as we take you through the full speech, the regional impact, and what this means for Africa's political realignment going forward.
Welcome to African Narrative, your home for real African stories, unfiltered and unapologetic. From political shifts to cultural triumphs, we bring you the news, voices, and perspectives shaping the continent. Here, Africa tells its own story, bold, raw, and authentic. If you're ready to see Africa through African eyes, you're in the right place. Subscribe and stay connected to the pulse of the motherland. Disclaimer: the views expressed on African Narrative are for informational and educational purposes only. We aim to present African stories truthfully, but we are not affiliated with any government, political party, or organization. All footage and commentary are used under fair use. Always do your own research. This is Africa, from our lens, bold, honest, and independent.
Good evening, Africa. Good evening, world. Tonight, we bring you one of the most defining statements made in modern African geopolitics, an assertive, unapologetic declaration from the heart of Burkina Faso. President Captain Ibrahim Traoré has once again shattered diplomatic silence and colonial illusions with a clear message to the West. Africans are not beggars, and Africa must be respected. At a time when the global economic system attempts to reframe Africa's potential as mere dependency, one voice rises to remind the world of the continent's dignity, wealth, and unmatched strength, both natural and human. Captain Traoré's words echo far beyond Ouagadougou. They are felt in Accra, echoed in Bamako, whispered in Nairobi, and even whispered uneasily in Brussels, Washington, and Paris. Captain Ibrahim Traoré did not mince words. In front of diplomats, citizens, and international observers, he declared, "Africa does not need to beg. We have everything the world needs: gold, cobalt, lithium, food, youth, and vision. But above all, we have pride. We do not kneel to those who built empires by draining ours." These words aren't just a bold headline. They represent a shift in the African political consciousness, a rising tide of leaders who no longer see sovereignty as optional, but as the foundation of true development. For decades, Africa was treated as the world's resource warehouse. Its minerals were extracted, its people manipulated, and its sovereignty ignored. But a new generation of leaders, men like Traoré, have chosen resistance over submission. Traoré made it clear: Africa is not poor. Africa has been looted, and we are no longer offering ourselves to be looted further. In this era where aid is used as a tool of influence, where development loans come with strings that bind governments to foreign agendas, Captain Traoré is setting fire to the old script. He challenges the very nature of international diplomacy and Western aid narratives. "Every time they give us aid," he said, "they take 10 times its worth in gold, oil, and decision-making power. What kind of help is that?" This is not just Burkina Faso's cry. It is the cry of a continent, one that has waited too long for fair partnership and has been given handouts instead of justice. Traoré's speech must be viewed in the broader historical lens. For generations, African leaders have been pressured to conform, appease, and negotiate from a position of weakness. From Kwame Nkrumah to Thomas Sankara, bold visions have often been crushed, sometimes violently, by external interference. Now, history is repeating, but this time with defiance and unity. Captain Traoré, who has already removed French military influence from his country, is now challenging the very framework of global relations with Africa. He reminded the world that Africa's resources are not just commodities. They are the foundation of today's global tech revolution. Lithium from Zimbabwe, cobalt from Congo, oil from Nigeria, uranium from Niger, all essential to modern economies, all too often taken without benefit to the people from whom they are sourced. "They want our minerals, but they don't want our people to live with dignity," he said. "We say no more. If they want access, it must come with respect. If they want partnership, it must come with equality. Otherwise, we will do it ourselves." Captain Traoré's declaration isn't isolationist, it's empowering. It's not anti-West, it's pro-Africa. He is calling for a new global arrangement, where Africa enters the room not as a beggar with a bowl, but as a sovereign partner with negotiating power. His statement on foreign aid was particularly strong. "Stop calling it aid. It is not aid when you control our economies, dictate our policies, and fund both sides of our conflicts. True aid does not come with hidden contracts. True help respects dignity." This message resonates across Africa, especially among youth. For them, Traoré represents something rarely seen in leadership: courage without compromise. He refuses to play the role of polite recipient. He demands a new script, one where Africa is the author of its own destiny. One of the key messages Traoré made was on economic independence. He stressed that Burkina Faso and other African nations must focus on industrialization, value addition, and regional trade. "Why do we export raw gold and import jewelry?" he asked. "Why do we ship cocoa and buy back chocolate? Why do we have the oil, but not the refineries?" This is not just poor planning. It's a design to keep us dependent. Traoré called for investment in African-owned manufacturing, energy infrastructure, agriculture, and education. He wants Burkina Faso to be a model, not of compliance, but of creative defiance. The country's refusal to take IMF loans and its pivot toward local and alternative partnerships have already begun reshaping its economy. Traoré insists that self-reliance, not foreign applause, is the true measure of progress. Perhaps the most powerful moment came when Traoré directly addressed his fellow African leaders. "We cannot preach Pan-Africanism in the day, then sign deals that enslave our countries at night. We must not go to France for solutions to African problems. The answers are not in Brussels or New York. They are here, in Lagos, Dakar, Accra, Nairobi, Ouagadougou." He called for unity, not in rhetoric, but in economic and political action. He warned against leaders who pretend to fight for the people while living off foreign favors. If your policies are made in Europe, he said, your allegiance is not to your people. It was a wake-up call, a mirror held up to a continent long divided by politics and borders, but bound by shared struggle and hope. Traoré's message to the youth was direct and empowering. You are not the leaders of tomorrow. You are the builders of today. Stop waiting. Rise up. Innovate. Create. Build what we were denied. He emphasized the role of young people in transforming the economy, defending sovereignty, and rejecting colonial mindsets. With Burkina Faso investing in tech, agriculture, renewable energy, and local education, he believes the continent's youth are its true wealth, not just in numbers, but in ideas. You are the proof, he said, that Africa does not need to borrow its future from anyone. Since Traoré's statement, international observers have responded with surprise, criticism, and in some corners, deep respect. For many in the West, such boldness is uncomfortable. For many in Africa, it is long overdue. Social media platforms across the continent have lit up with support for his words. Hashtags like #AfricaIsNotAbeggar, #RespectAfrica, and #Traoré Speaks Truth are trending. But this moment is more than viral. It is vital. For too long, African dignity has been filtered through Western validation. Captain Traoré is rejecting that. He is demanding that Africans speak for themselves and to each other, loudly, clearly, and unapologetically. As the sun sets over Ouagadougou tonight, a new dawn is breaking over Africa, one of courage, vision, and refusal. In Captain Ibrahim Traoré, many see not just a president, but a symbol of possibility, proof that African leadership can be fierce and still just, proud and still wise. He has dared to say what so many leaders feared to voice. We are not beggars. We are not your children. We are not your experiments. We are Africa, and we deserve to be respected. That message is echoing through every village, city, and capital. And if the world listens, really listens, perhaps the future of Africa will finally be written by Africans, for Africans. This is not the end of a story. It is only the beginning.
As reaction continues across the continent and beyond, African Narrative will be here to bring you the latest voices, truths, and perspectives. If this story spoke to you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep amplifying African stories that matter. This is more than news. It's our voice, our vision, our narrative. Until next time, stay bold and stay connected.